The glider is already on their deck when Higgins gets the alert. Not drifting. Not adrift in disputed water. Physically aboard a Chinese naval vessel, hoisted from the sea, dripping, secured to the stern of PLA Navy survey ship Tianxun 01 with lines, while her crew photographs it from 3 angles. The yellow instrument had been running an autonomous survey loop 47 nautical miles northwest of Scarborough Shoal when the ship moved in, deployed her crane, and lifted the vehicle from the water with the unhurried efficiency of a crew that had rehearsed the procedure. The 28th of March 2026, 06:14 hours. West Philippine Sea. USS Higgins turns onto an intercept heading at 28 knots, her bow cutting the pre-dawn swell in long white bursts of spray. The destroyer has been on patrol in the area since the 24th routine presence operations. Nothing on the schedule that looks like this. Her commanding officer, Commander Dana Reyes, is on the bridge in 4 minutes. The course is already set. The glider belongs to the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet Oceanographic Program. It has been operating in these waters for 11 days, mapping current patterns and water temperature columns along the approach routes to Luzon Strait. What it has found in those 11 days is what matters. What Tianxun 01's crew is doing with it right now is the other thing that matters. Higgins raises the Chinese vessel on the bridge-to-bridge channel at 0631. Tianxun 01. This is USS Higgins. You have retrieved U.S. Navy property without authorization. Return the vehicle immediately. The channel carries back the sound of open air. Then, after 11 seconds, a voice in careful English. This vessel is conducting routine operations. The object recovered was drifting and unattended. It will be examined for navigational hazard. Reyes does not respond to that. She keys the channel again. Tianxun 01. The vehicle is U.S. government property, actively conducting a lawful survey mission. Return it now. Static. Then nothing. By 0647, 2 silhouettes have appeared from the northwest running fast. Bow waves white against the dark water, cutting toward Tianxun 01 on converging courses. Plan Type 54 of frigates. They weren't visible 20 minutes ago because they were holding position beyond the horizon, waiting for exactly this moment. They take station either side of the holding ship, flanking her, forming a line between her stern and the bearing from which Higgins is approaching, and slow to match her speed. The wall is in place before the destroyer gets within visual range. BRP Antonio Luna, the Philippine Navy frigate running a parallel patrol 12 kilometers east, alters course toward the scene at 0652. She's slower than Higgins. She'll arrive later, but she's coming. At 0703, a shadow breaks the cloud line high overhead low banking turn. 4 turboprops audible before the P-8 Poseidon is visible. It settles into its surveillance orbit at 1,500 feet, camera pods tracking every hull below. Whatever happens next is being recorded from above. Higgins is close enough now to read the hull numbers on both planned frigates without optics. The blocking pair hold their line, matching every adjustment in the destroyer's approach, repositioning in tandem to keep the screen between Higgins and Tianxun 01's stern. The seized machine sits on the Chinese deck, still dripping, lines across its yellow hull. At 0718, one of the frigates makes its first active move. She accelerates not toward Higgins, but across her projected course. A slow diagonal insertion, placing 4,000 tons of gray hull directly across the bearing. Higgins would need to close on Tianxun 01. Not a threat, a fact. The message requires no translation. Reyes orders Higgins to hold course. The gap between the destroyer's bow and the frigate's stern compresses 800 meters. Then close enough to see the frigate's deck crew at their stations. Then close enough to count them. Higgins' engines push maximum approach speed. The frigate's engines match it on the crossing vector. At 0731, Tianxun 01's crane swings back to its resting position. The lines holding the glider are removed. The yellow hull disappears below the survey vessel's rail taken below decks. Out of sight, out of reach. The glider is on their deck, and their frigates are between it and everyone who wants it back. Higgins does not stop. She drives toward the frigate's crossing hull at reduced but unambiguous speed, not a collision course, but close enough that the geometry makes the intention clear. The destroyer will not yield the bearing. The frigate completes her diagonal insertion and holds, broadside to Higgins, 300 meters off the bow. For 8 seconds, neither vessel moves. Then Reyes orders a course adjustment not away from the frigate, but parallel to her. Higgins slides north, running alongside the blocking hull at close range, angling for the gap between the screen and open water. The frigate's engines surge in response. She pivots to maintain the blockade, her stern swinging hard to cover the new angle. The second blocking hull is already repositioning to fill the space Higgins is heading toward. They're working the angles faster than one ship can counter alone. At 0748, the first frigate makes contact, not a collision. A close pass at combined speed, the displacement wave from her hull striking Higgins amidships hard enough to rock the destroyer 3 degrees. Deck crew on both vessels grab for handrails simultaneously. The frigate's combined wakes churn the water between them into a churned white corridor. And Tianxun 01 uses the disruption to increase speed bearing southwest, putting distance between herself and the standoff while her escorts manage it. The vessel with the prize is moving. Reyes is on the fleet channel immediately. The words are short and specific. A second radio demand goes to Tianxun 01 on the open channel, this one with a timestamp and a deadline. Return the vehicle within 2 hours, or this matter will be referred to the highest appropriate authority. Tianxun 01's response comes back in 40 seconds, smoother than before, as if the phrasing was prepared. The recovered object is being assessed for environmental hazard under international maritime law. Results will be communicated through appropriate diplomatic channels. The distance between Higgins and Tianxun 01 is stretching. The two frigates are now running interference in Relay 1, engaging the destroyer's course while the other repositions ahead, creating a leapfrog screen that regenerates faster than Higgins can defeat it. It is not improvised. The timing between the two hulls is too clean for improvisation. BRP Antonio Luna arrives at the outer edge of the standoff at 0802. She takes position 600 meters north of Higgins, not between the destroyer and the frigates, but visible, logged, present, a second set of eyes, a second flag. At 0814, the second frigate cuts across Higgins' bow. The range when she crosses, close enough to see the wake cut by her bow splitting against Higgins' own displacement, close enough that the wash strikes the destroyer's hull before the frigate's stern has cleared the bearing. Reyes orders all stop for 4 seconds, the only option that doesn't make contact inevitable. Higgins shudders against her own deceleration. Those 4 seconds cost 200 meters on Tianxun 01's bearing. At 0823, a third Chinese hull appears on the southern horizon, a Coast Guard vessel, larger than the frigates, running north at speed. The screen now has reinforcements. The geometry that was difficult at 2 blocking hulls becomes a different problem entirely at 3. Tianxun 01 is now beyond visual range without optics. The yellow instrument is below her decks, in a sealed space, being handled by people with the tools and the time to handle it thoroughly. The P-8 makes a low pass close enough that its slipstream is felt on Higgins' signal deck. The aircraft's communication systems are active. The burst is going somewhere. Someone at a desk far from this water is watching every frame. Reyes looks at the chart, then at the clock. 91 minutes remain on the 2-hour window. The Coast Guard vessel is eating the distance to the screen at 22 knots, and it hasn't acknowledged a single transmission. The diplomatic channel opens at 0917. Not through the bridge-to-bridge radio, through a frequency that requires a different kind of conversation, one that happens between people who are not on ships. The details take 40 minutes. Higgins holds her position during those 40 minutes. The two frigates holding theirs. The Coast Guard hull stationary 3 kilometers south. The entire standoff suspended in a state that is neither resolved nor escalating. At 0958, Tianxun 01 comes back onto the open channel. One sentence. The recovered object will be returned to U.S. Navy custody at coordinates to be confirmed. Transfer will occur at 1,400 hours. Reyes acknowledges, does not thank them. Manila's official statement is released at 1012 one line, addressed to no one specific. The presence of Chinese naval vessels in Philippine territorial waters without notification constitutes a violation of international maritime law. The frigates do not move in response. The Coast Guard hull does not move. The standoff geometry is the same at 1015 as it was at 0814, just quieter. The transfer happens at 1347. 13 minutes ahead of the stated time, at a position 12 nautical miles northwest of the original seizure site. A rigid inflatable from Tianxun 01 crosses the water between the vessels and deposits the yellow hull over Higgins' rail with the practiced indifference of a package being delivered to the wrong address. The lines are removed. The inflatable returns. No ceremony. No acknowledgement of what just occurred. The instrument is back on Higgins' deck at 1,349. The technician's assessment takes 22 minutes. He finds what he expected to find and does not say it loudly. The glider's memory has been accessed. The data partition holding 11 days of survey readings, water column profiles, current mapping, acoustic recordings along the Luzon Strait approach routes has been copied and wiped. The hardware is intact. The sensor suite is undamaged. Everything the machine spent 11 days collecting is gone. Reyes reads the assessment, folds it, says nothing to the crew about the content. At 1,500, the P-8 makes its final pass before rotating back to base. As it banks northeast, its optical suite captures something on the sea surface 30 kilometers south of the transfer position. A Chinese survey vessel, not Tianxun 01. A different hull, smaller, with different antenna configuration holding station directly above the coordinates where the glider had been running. Its deepest survey passes 3 days ago. The vessel is stationary. Equipment is deployed over her rail. She has been there. The P-8's log will later confirm. Since approximately 0900, while the diplomatic channel was still working out the terms of the return, she is still there when the P-8's feed cuts at the edge of its range. At 1,620, Higgins receives new tasking from 7th Fleet. The glider program is suspended pending a security review. The next survey deployment already planned, routes already filed, is placed on hold. Antonio Luna holds her position northeast of Scarborough Shoal as evening comes down. Her crew has been on watch for 14 hours. The Coast Guard vessel that arrived as reinforcement has not left. It idles 2 kilometers off the shoal's western entrance, running lights on, making no particular move. On Higgins' stern deck, the yellow hull sits in its cradle, intact. Return. Emptied of everything it knew. 30 kilometers south, the survey vessel's equipment is still in the water. The route the glider was supposed to run next week has not been changed yet.